so you know that there's some credibility in terms of, you know, we can speak about this topic with some kind of authority. So yes, I'm Sophia, also known as Puff. I am the co-founder of Three-Sided Cube Inc. So Three-Sided Cube Inc. is the US division of Three-Sided Cube. Three-Sided Cube have been going for around 11 years now, and we were established in the UK. We have a team of around 45, 50 people in the UK, and we're growing in the UK and both the US. And, you know, essentially we design and develop software solutions, bespoke software solutions, predominantly mobile apps. But, you know, we do dabble in the likes of platforms, websites, Alexa skills. So we do have quite a broad experience. But the unique thing about us here at Three-Sided Cube is that we have a mission, a very clear mission, and that mission is to change millions of lives for the better. And we plan on doing that through building technology for good. So what we mean by tech for good is we will only work on projects where we can have a positive social impact. So where we can, you know, save a life or change a life for the better. And the reason we're very clear on that is because ultimately we offer a service. So we will only be as good as the people, as our team, and our team have to feel really passionate and enthused about the types of projects that they work on. So that's really super important to us. So yeah, we build tech for good. As I said, you know, we've been going for about 11 years now, and we have over 200 apps out there in the wild, in over 100 countries. I think some of the apps have been translated into as many as 55 different languages worldwide now, which is quite impressive. And some of the projects that we work on have, you know, gained over 35 million users. So we're talking, you know, quite significant platforms here, quite significant apps that are used by millions of people worldwide. We're no strangers to building from scratch and then scaling those solutions kind of as time goes by. And you know, I guess because of our mission of building tech for good, it does mean that we work quite heavily in the third sector. So we work with a lot of charities and not-for-profits, and you know, INGOs. But we aren't just limited to those kind of organisations. So we do work with other organisations like Lush, like Nordstrom, like, you know, ASPCA. So we do work with lots of other types of organizations. And I think it's quite important to flag that actually, you know, positive social impact projects aren't just limited to charities. Any type of organization can have a positive impact in the world. You know, the main kind of beef of today's talk, if you like, is around the 3 points of reach / collaboration, agility, and silverback. So these are the 3 musts of any type of development project that we do here at Three-Sided Cube. And, you know, what I want to do essentially is talk you through two case studies, both for the same client. And I want to talk you through kind of why they were a success. And then in the second case study, talk, you know, perhaps why maybe it may not be considered a success. So whilst the numbers are strong and from the outside it looks all glossy and it looks great, you know, there were missed opportunities. And I think people don't talk about that enough in today's environment. I think, you know, we're all guilty of it. We all talk about the successes, but we don't always talk about the, you know, the drawbacks. So bear with me a second. So the American Red Cross, one of our clients. So the first case study I kind of want to talk to you guys about today is the first app that we worked on was an app called Emergency, or it's now known as Emergency. When it first started, we launched with a title called Hurricane. And yeah, what this app does is it aims to keep people safe in severe weather. Okay, so in the form of a mobile app that alerts you when a natural disaster is coming, and it tells you what to do and where to go and how to let your loved ones know that you are safe. So, you know, really, really important. But this was done about 8 years ago now. So, you know, it's quite an old concept. So cast your mind back when the App Store was fairly new. We were only a year or two in. And there wasn't that many really good use cases for mobile apps. So I don't know if any of you will remember, you know, some of the first kind of apps that were out there were, you know, farting apps, or pretending to drink, you know, a pint of beer. They were all quite, you know, novelty based. There was nothing with a real strong use case that could essentially save your life. And, you know, I'm going to make a bold statement as to say this was probably one of the first life-saving apps in the App Store at this time. So this app, as it stands today, I would say between May and September this year, we sent out over 100,000 alerts, which is a significant number of alerts. But more impressively, it sent over 67 million push notifications to keep people safe, to keep people out of danger when a natural disaster was coming. And the map on the screen right now indicates kind of where the majority of those push notifications were sent. So predominantly East Coast, as you would expect. So yeah, like that's quite impressive. There's some quite impressive numbers there. And I think one of the interesting facts about this particular project was this app, and you know, I've got a screenshot of what the app looked like in the early days. Took us as an agency and the American Red Cross 6 weeks to design, build, and launch. Okay, and I put that into today's terms, where most projects that we work on anyway would take anywhere between 3 to 6 months to launch. Okay, so 6 weeks is quite an impressive feat to get something out there that quickly. But I think even more impressive is that actually this only had 4 people from the American Red Cross kind of working on it with us at the time. And I guess, you know, to kind of complement that, you had 5 people here at Three Sided Cube working on that project kind of when it went live, which was amazing. But the reason, and I guess it's the main reason why this happened so quickly, was because between the 25th and the 27th of October in 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit. And, you know, back then, with a hurricane, you have visibility, you know when a big natural disaster is coming. I think with something like a tornado, you can have, you know, up to a 3-minute warning. But with a hurricane, you have a bit of notice. But, you know, we knew it was hurricane season. We knew that we needed to get an app out there. And I think the American Red Cross predominantly had, they had basically spent a lot of money printing leaflets. And then what they would do is they would drive around and distribute those leaflets, these physical leaflets, in areas where they believed that a hurricane was going to hit. So those at high risk. So actually, what the American Red Cross wanted to do was to work out a cost-efficient way and a more efficient way of working and warning people that these natural disasters were coming, because quite often would be the case, when you know a hurricane is coming, it can move. So the path can change pretty quickly, and actually you can't be as efficient then to have loads more leaflets reprinted to then have to drive them somewhere else and distribute them in another area. And you know, that's a very difficult thing to manage. and technology, specifically mobile apps that everyone carries around, or mobile phones that everyone carries around with them today, allows people to, you know, download an app and then get a notification when they are affected, so when they're at risk. And actually, you know, it really becomes a much more efficient way of working. But I guess because of this, because we knew Hurricane Sandy was coming, we launched on the Friday before Hurricane Sandy hit. And in that first weekend, it was very early days, we were number 2 in the App Store, behind, you know, the mighty YouTube, which back then in the day obviously were like super popular. I'm not saying it's not now, but you know, for an unknown agency like ourselves to work with the Red Cross, who had never delivered a mobile app before, to achieve number 2 status in the app charts in the US pretty much overnight was unheard of, and you know, extremely encouraging that a large organization like the American Red Cross could utilize new technology to save people's lives. And I think that was hugely exciting. It was a moment in which everyone kind of thought, wow, like, we need to be using this new technology, and it is a very powerful source. So before I would have shown you what the app looked like today, the app still exists. It has moved on. It looks very different now. It's obviously a lot more advanced, and it has millions of users. So this year, for the past few years, the app receives now 24/7 support. So it is monitored and supported 24 hours a day. You have multiple teams at ARC contributing to this app for lots of different areas. So it will be, you know, information, content, branding, you name it. There's lots of different teams involved. But I think, you know, to kind of put it into perspective, we had a team of 5 people here at Three-Sided Cube working on that. Today, we have a team of around 15 people here at Three-Sided Cube working on that and monitoring that 24/7 to make sure that the app is as good as it possibly can be, which is good. So that all sounds quite good. It sounds like this is a successful case study. I would say in terms of reach and collaboration, you know, you had great collaboration between Three-Sided Cube and American Red Cross, which is a very well-known brand. In terms of agility, we were very quick. We delivered the mobile app in around 6 weeks. And we had protection from what we would call a silverback. So we had one senior person at the American Red Cross within that team of 4 to protect us, to make sure that we could get what we needed to get done as quickly as possible without having to worry about the marketing team, without having to worry about legal. They managed all of that. So they gave us the protection we needed to be as agile as possible. Okay, so that's one successful case study. The other successful case study, and I'm going to say it's successful because it is, it's one of the biggest case studies that we've worked on to date, and it all boiled down to a visit we did with the American Red Cross to the White House. So about 7 years ago now, maybe even 8 years ago now, our founder, Duncan, got invited to the White House to talk about the work that we were doing with the American Red Cross all around disaster preparedness. So specifically, the emergency app that I've just spoken to you about. And as part, on that trip, Duncan met a gentleman called Brian Boyle. Now, Brian had, dedicated his life to raising money for the American Red Cross, but specifically around blood donation. So, and the reason why he was doing such amazing work was because, unfortunately, he'd had a really bad accident to which he'd received several rounds of blood donations. And that was obviously a very difficult time in his life, but he recovered, and he, slowly built up his health and well-being, and he started to turn his life around and, like I say, dedicate it almost to raising money to helping the American Red Cross with their blood donation projects. And on one of the first chats that we had with Brian, it became very clear that actually one of the biggest challenges that the American Red Cross had was the fact that only 52% of people were showing up to donate blood. So what they would call the appointment show rate was 52%. And the reason why it was as low as 52% was because the American Red Cross had actually employed third-party agencies to phone people up to encourage people to sign up to donate blood. And what would happen is people would have these conversations, they would entertain these conversations, and they would book an appointment, but they simply wouldn't show. And obviously, this proved to be a very expensive exercise for the American Red Cross. So, knowing that was a big challenge that they faced, Duncan came back to the team here in the UK, and we sat down and we kind of talked to each other about how might we use technology to help solve this problem. Okay, so what we did is we put together, I guess, a business case to create a mobile app that would allow people to sign up to donate blood. Again, it sounds really simple, but back then it was, it was unheard of. No one was doing this. So it was quite a brave, bold move to move into the world of mobile for, the business of blood donation. And what was really interesting was, when doing some kind of user research, user testing, what we discovered was that actually one of the most motivating factors to sign up to donate blood was surfacing the impact you would have as a result of your blood donation. So, for example, for every blood donation you make, you can save up to 3 people's lives. So we proposed that actually we could create an app that would allow people to sign up to donate blood, but more importantly, it would track what would happen to your blood. So we proposed that actually we could scan your blood when you donated it off the packet, and we would track what hospital your blood would end up at, and then how many people's lives you would save as a result of your single blood donation. And what was amazing about that was, we put together this business case, we sent it to the American Red Cross. The American Red Cross, loved it. It took us a while to get this off the ground, but we created an app called Blood Donor. And, this was done probably, quite a few years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. And we've completed over 4 million appointments to date. I think it has achieved an average monthly appointment booking of 125,000 appointments a month. Some months we've seen those numbers creep up to around 200,000. So, this worked. This mobile app turned out to be a huge success. It was a great idea. It even won a Webby Award, which I guess to us is like the digital Oscars. Very, very proud moment for ourselves and the American Red Cross. But more importantly, we raised over $300 million for the American Red Cross. So for every blood donation that was made, the Red Cross could sell that blood because it's private. And, this meant that this particular case study actually was a huge, revenue stream for the American Red Cross. It was proving to be really, really successful. But this app actually took us 2 years to design, build, and launch. 2 years is a long time when you look back and you look at the other project that we managed to deliver in the 6 weeks. So we've worked out that actually in that 2 years, had we have not waited 2 years, had we have got something out really, really quickly, we'd have saved or we'd have made an extra $22 million. So that's a huge number. That is a lot of money. And I think, we have to look at the facts, like why did it take 2 years? Why did it take us that long? And I think whenever people set out to complete or to start a development project, no one intends to take 2 years. No one sets out on purpose to say, yeah, this is going to take me a few years to build. But unfortunately, development projects can take quite a while. And I think I want to come back to these 3 key points and talk to you guys in more detail around the importance of each one and what that meant in those 2 case studies that I've talked to you about. So the first one is reach/collaboration, okay? And I'll talk to you about why they're kind of like the same thing. So reach, okay? Why is this important? So I'm going to use the analogy of comparing reach to oil tankers, which is quite controversial, I know. Oil tankers aren't really one of my favorite transport methods, but actually these things are incredibly important. And the reason they're important is because the world couldn't run without them. And, these essentially transport like huge amounts of oil around the globe. And without them, there will be countries that just could not operate. So they are incredibly important. They allow people to have reach to, lots of different countries and to kind of make sure that people can access the energy source that they need. And I think it's a very crude analogy, but three-sided cube, we're an agency that are relatively unheard of. Certainly in the US, in the UK, we do have more of a following because we started here in the UK. And I think by partnering with the American Red Cross, we were able to design and deliver a solution that was fit for purpose, that was fit for users. But the American Red Cross are that oil tanker. They have the reach. They have the PR capacity. They have the marketing capacity. They have the advertising capacity. They have the different teams of people that they can pull on to start promoting the app. And I think, yes, we could have, designed and developed an app ourselves. We could have made an app called Hurricane and we could have released it into the App Store. But our teams don't specialize in marketing and PR, in advertising, and we don't have an established brand with heritage like the American Red Cross. So that's why in both these case studies, that actually the reach and the collaboration was there and it worked. So it worked incredibly well on Hurricane because the American Red Cross have quite a heritage in disaster preparedness and disaster management. So they were able to leverage that in a time of need. And that's how we managed to shoot up the app charts so quickly. So that's kind of like the first case study. In terms of the second case study, again, we had no creds in blood donation. We aren't the experts on blood donation. The American Red Cross are the experts on blood donation, and we're the experts at design and developing mobile app solutions. And I think by bringing that together, by collaborating together, and then achieving that reach with the said client, the American Red Cross in this instance, it allowed us to have success in both those particular case studies. So I guess my advice to you guys is, if you are undertaking a project on your own, or if you're confident, that's great, go forth and good luck. But don't be afraid to call on external expertise, working with third parties, working with agencies, and agencies working with clients. It's not a bad thing. By combining talent, and you will reach more people. And I think that's something that we need to keep more of an open mind to. So the second point I wanted to talk to you guys about is agility. So you know, what do I mean by agility? And I think I always like to go back to a definition. And by agility, I mean the ability to move quickly and easily. Okay, so it's both, you know, the speed, but also with ease. And I'm going to go back to kind of another boat analogy, and I'm going to use the analogy of speedboats. So, you know, popping back to the oil tanker, an oil tanker doesn't have agility. It can't move quickly and easily. If they want to change direction, that's going to take a bit of time, and you need to do a lot of planning for that. And you know what? Sometimes, you know, it's just, you just can't. So what you need to do is you need to build these small agile teams, okay? And it's the same. Oil tankers will have boats and speedboats that come off of that oil tanker to allow them to be more agile as and when they need to go out and do checks. And I think it's important to kind of understand the importance of having those small agile teams, because I think this, you know, this is quite a powerful thing that you can do when you have those small teams, because actually in a small team, I think you can achieve more, okay? Because you can navigate around the red tape, as I call it, the rules, all of the process, which I think is very much an issue within large organizations. And I think, you know, especially, you know, using the American Red Cross as an example, I think, you know, they will even say they have so many teams internally that they won't be aware of every single team that they need to go through. When you have, you know, a marketing team, a PR team, you have a, you know, brand team, like there's lots of different teams. And I think when you're working in a small team, you can be more agile. You can have those one-on-one conversations with people, and you can just like navigate it really quickly, maybe even under the radar. And that's really kind of really key in this. The third and final thing is protection, okay? And this is where the silverback comes into play. So, and this is perhaps why the second case study took so long to get out. So in the first case study, I talked about the emergency app. We had a very small team. So we had 4 people from the American Red Cross. And within those 4 key people, we had a silverback. We had an amazing person. I won't mention their name, but we had an amazing person that essentially protected us. And they basically got buy-in from the C-suite people. So they managed stakeholder expectations without having to involve us, which meant that we could be more agile and move quickly and easily. When I look at the second case study, the blood case study, actually, we didn't have a silverback. And it wasn't intentional. I think what happened was because we put forward a proactive business case to do this app, there wasn't like an owner from the beginning at the American Red Cross. Because of that, we didn't have the protection we needed. So what that meant was, you know, we had to go through the formal business case process. We had to wait for funding. We then had to navigate all the different teams and manage those the stakeholder inputs. And I think that's when it becomes quite difficult, okay? Because obviously the more people that get involved, everyone has an opinion, everyone has a say, and actually becomes very, very difficult to navigate and manage. And that's why your silverback is so important. So if you are going to take on a project from an external team, with a client or with an agency, I think know right from the very start who your silverback is. Designate a silverback. Designate someone that is going to protect you from all of the red tape, from all of the internal politics, so that you can get something out as soon as possible. But of course, we know that now, we've been designing and developing apps for 11 years. So we take these three key points in all of our projects, right? Including our own. I can't honestly sit and talk to you today and say that happened. We learned a lesson the hard way. So here at Three-Sided Cube, we work on, so our innovation is done through like a program that we call free-ish time. And what I mean by free-ish time is that every single member of our production team get to work on a project of their own choice every, 6 or 7 weeks. They get a whole week to work on a project of their own choice. And we've been doing this for quite a few years now. And I think in the early days, when we first kind of set out to do this, because it's a big investment for an agency like ourselves to do, I think we had some very interesting outputs. So we, I think we'd developed boards that could automatically draw when you would send them a picture. We had buttons that we were making that did various different things. But actually, nothing that really delivered on our mission of building technology for good to change millions of lives for the better. And I look back to those 3 key pillars and I'm like, well, why? Like, what were we doing wrong? And you know what? We were doing a couple of things wrong. Okay, so we had the agility. We could move quickly and easily. They were internal projects. We didn't have, we weren't working with external parties. It was, just us. So that was fine. So we ticked that box. But the other 2 boxes, so reach and collaboration. Okay, so we weren't working with any third parties to have the reach. So we were going wrong there. And we didn't protect this time. So, we didn't designate this project a silverback. So we didn't designate someone that was going to protect this time from the schedule and make sure that any incoming projects weren't going to kind of chip away at this time and mean that people didn't have the time that they were initially allocated. And actually, reflecting on that and looking back, when we go back and kind of review kind of where we were going wrong, I think it was very clear that, we weren't involving external people in this. And that's probably something we needed to do. And more importantly, for free-ish time to work within the realms of Three-Sided Cube, we needed to ensure that time is protected and that our managing director protected that time from the schedule to make sure that it actually happened. So we did that. We put some rules in place, and we also encourage people to do so we would give them a week, but we encourage people at the end of that week to do a presentation back to the team at the end of their time to talk about what they learnt. And if they failed, that's fine, but there were learnings that could be shared amongst the team. So we needed to make sure that could happen. And actually, within 18 months, 2 years, we managed to turn it around and we started winning Most Innovative Agency of the Year. So, and I guess the reason why, the big case study that came out of this was when we started working with Lush, who are a cosmetics firm that sell bath bombs, soap, cosmetics. And they're a very ethical company, so they are all about positive social impact. And what we did was we designed an app that would use object recognition to recognize what bath bombs it would kind of recognize. It would scan a bath bomb and it would tell you what bath bomb it was, but it would then list out the ingredients and the price and all the information about that product. And the reason this is important and the reason why that this could change millions of lives for the better was because it meant that wasteless packaging was irrelevant. So actually, Lush managed to achieve opening their first packaging-free store in Milan, I think last year or the year before, 2018 maybe, all because of this app. And this app was born out of free-ish time. So suddenly we go from, achieving reach and collaboration because we're working with this third party. We're being agile. This was done, the initial concept was done in a matter of 5 days. And then we had that silverback protection. So that free-ish time was protected by our managing director, Richard Strachan. So, straight away by achieving those 3 things, we started, seeing more success. And I think these 3 things you know, it's not a coincidence that these three things are kind of like the key pillars. And I think if I look back at all of our successful projects, like truly successful projects, though they are the three things that they have in common. But I think I should probably mention everything in moderation, right? So we have to do things your way, essentially, because sometimes you can have a bit too much or a bit too little, and to find out what's right, to find out what works for you, is you have to give things a go, and you have to up certain levels, and you have to kind of scale back others. And I think, you know, there's no set formula as such. Like, these three things are all important, but maybe in different measures and for different projects. And that's where things become slightly complicated, because some clients will work in a set way, other clients will work in another way. But actually, you need some consistency across that, you know, for projects to be a true success. And I think only when we kind of found our right amount for the projects that we work on could we truly achieve some amazing results. So just to recap, I will try and summarize very quickly now, but the three key points and the $22 million lesson that we learned was that reach and collaboration, agility, and a silverback are all crucial for any successful project that you do. Thank you. So I've got a few questions, and I don't know whether or not I just dive into the questions, but I can try and do that. So let's have a look. Hang on. Ooh. Right, if I go in and answer those questions. So how do I explain technical information to a non-technical person while doing collaboration? That's a really good question. And being, you know, really honest with you, I think you just have to talk to someone like they're a normal person. Talk to them like you're talking to your mum, with the mum rule. If you can explain something to your mum, then someone else should be able to understand. I can't sit here in front of you and say I am the most technical person, because I'm not. We have we've got a whole team of experts that we nurture, who are incredibly good at what they do. I don't claim to be the best technical person, because I'm not. And I think if you can explain it like you're explaining something to your mum, then I think that's a really good start. You know, try not to use technical jargon. Try and just put it in layman's terms, and be confident that if your mum could understand, then hopefully the client should understand. The next question I'm going to answer. Let's have a look. Any chances of facing scams when we're using that for purposes? Hey, what has been your most aspiring project that made you learn what should not be done in the field of software development? Okay, so I think I touched upon it. It would be the blood donor app that we worked on. It's an incredible project. You know, it's saved millions of lives. It's raised millions of dollars. It's achieved some truly amazing things. But we learned a lot. And I think, you know, by not having the silverback in the project, it took us so long to get that to market. Compliance issues while making apps. Yes, there's lots of compliance issues. There's lots of red tape that you have to navigate. It can I'm laughing because it can break you, but yes, there's lots of red tape to navigate. And I think you need that small agile team, and you need to work in true partnership with your client to be able to navigate those. You know, I don't claim to be an expert on compliance issues. I don't think any agency is, being honest with you. I think there are experienced agencies, of which hopefully we are one. In fact, I know we are one. But again, we do rely on third parties to help us navigate that. And, you know, it is a learning curve for us all. Let's have a look. Anything else? So as far as meeting deadlines go and achieving tomorrow's vision today, what would you think would be the next natural progression? Would there be new tech on top of these three, or just a different way of doing things with the combination? Yeah, so I think these three key aspects could be related to any kind of project, whatever the tech. So whether it's a mobile app, whether it's a website, whether it's a voice skill, whatever it is, I think there are three key things that could be applied to anything. They're all equally important. And as I said, it's the Goldilocks approach. Sometimes one is more important than the other. And you kind of have to navigate that yourself. But yeah, like, I think they could definitely be applied to different projects. So I think that might be all of the questions. So yes, thank you very much for listening. And yeah, I hope that our paths cross again soon.